I'm Allison, 37, and single mother to my amazing 14-year-old daughter Madison. We were always a close-knit family, until yesterday when I discovered my sister Heather's Instagram poll mocking my daughter. The screen showed Madison's candid photo with the caption, "What's worse, her crooked hair or her nasty attitude?" My hands trembled as I saw hundreds of votes and cruel comment. How could my own sister publicly humiliate my child? Before I share how this family nightmare unfolded, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit subscribe if you've ever dealt with toxic family members who crossed the line. Being a single mother wasn't the future I'd planned. When Madison's father and I divorced 5 years ago, I promised myself I'd create a stable, loving home despite our new reality. Madison was 9 then, still playing with dolls, obsessed with gymnastics, and blissfully unaware of how complex family relationships could become. Back then, her biggest worry was whether she'd land her cartwheel at the school talent show. My sister Heather is 2 years younger than me at 35. Growing up, we shared close secrets and dreams. She was my maid of honor and I was hers. But there was always an undercurrent of competition that intensified as we grew older. Heather married Greg, a successful financial advisor right out of college. They have identical 10-year-old twin boys, Noah and Logan, perfectly dressed in coordinating outfits for every holiday photo and family gathering. Heather's Instagram feed looks like a lifestyle magazine: spotless white furniture, elaborate home-cooked meals, and family vacations to destinations that required passports. Her 15,000 followers regularly praise her parenting tips and home organization hacks. The perfect family image is her brand, her currency, her validation. My life looks different. After the divorce, I went back to school while working full-time. Our apartment is small but comfortable. Madison's schedule is packed with activities and homework, and sometimes laundry sits unfolded for days. We eat takeout more often than I'd like to admit. My social media presence is minimal, mostly sharing Madison's achievements and our occasional mother-daughter adventures. Our mother, Evelyn, is 65 and retired from teaching 2 years ago. She's never been one to hide her opinions, especially about parenting. Growing up, she constantly compared Heather and me. "Why can't you be organized like your sister?" Or, "Heather could use some of your ambition." This pattern continued into our adult lives, but the comparison shifted to our children. Madison's hair is always so wild, Allison. Heather's boys are always so well-groomed, she'd say during Sunday dinners. Or, "The twins are so polite." Madison could learn some manners from her cousins. Each comment landed like a paper cut, seemingly minor but stinging nonetheless. Madison was once close with her aunt. When she was younger, she adored visits to Aunt Heather's house with its pristine playroom and perfectly arranged toys. Heather would do Madison's hair, take her shopping, and introduce her as my beautiful niece to her friends. But as Madison entered adolescence, something changed. Heather became increasingly critical, offering unsolicited advice about Madison's appearance, grades, and manners. Last year, Madison started becoming more self-conscious. At 14, she was navigating the treacherous waters of high school social hierarchies while her body and emotions underwent seismic changes. Her naturally wavy hair, which I've always found beautiful, became a source of frustration. "It's not straight and it's not curly, it's just wrong," she'd say, spending hours with straighteners or curling irons trying to force her hair into submission. Last month, we attended a family barbecue at my mother's house. Madison had recently experimented with letting her natural hair texture show. Inspired by some social media influencers embracing natural beauty, she was nervous but proud. I remember her asking me 3 times if she looked okay before we left our apartment. When we arrived, Heather immediately noticed. "Oh honey," she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "didn't you have time to fix your hair today?" Madison's face fell, and she spent the rest of the afternoon sitting alone on the porch swing scrolling through her phone. Later, I overheard Heather telling our mother, "I'm worried about Madison. That attitude of hers is getting worse, and Allison just lets her get away with it. And would it kill her to run a brush through that girl's hair? She looks like she just rolled out of bed." I confronted her privately, asking her to be more sensitive about Madison's feelings. Heather dismissed my concerns with a wave of her manicured hand. "She needs to toughen up. The real world isn't going to coddle her like you do." On the drive home, Madison was unusually quiet. When I asked what was wrong, she simply said nothing, but she straightened her hair every day for the next 2 weeks. If I had known what was brewing beneath the surface, I might have been able to prevent what happened next. But family relationships are complicated, layered with history and unspoken expectations. I never imagined my own sister would take her disapproval to such a public and cruel level. The tension between us had been building for years, masked by polite conversation at family gatherings and obligatory birthday gifts. but what appeared to be typical sibling rivalry and different parenting approaches was actually something more insidious, something that would soon explode into the open and force us all to confront truths we'd been avoiding for years. Tuesday morning started like any other. I woke up at 5:30 am, made coffee, and reviewed client emails before Madison's alarm went off. My phone pinged with a text from my friend Jessica. "Have you seen what Heather posted? Call me ASAP." My stomach tightened. Jessica and I had been friends since college, and she wasn't one to overreact. Another text followed immediately, screenshot attached. "I'm so sorry, Allison." I opened the image and froze. There on my screen was an Instagram poll posted by Heather. The photo showed Madison at the family barbecue, caught mid-expression with her hair windblown. Her mouth was slightly open, making her look annoyed. Above the image, in Heather's perfectly curated font, was the question: what's worse, her crooked hair or her nasty attitude? Below were two voting options: that hair is a crime or her attitude needs adjustment. The poll already had over 500 votes. The comments section was filled with strangers weighing in: definitely the hair, get that girl some product, and teenagers these days have no respect. My hand shook so badly I dropped my phone. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think. My sister, my flesh and blood, had offered up my daughter for public ridicule, for likes, for engagement, for her precious social media metrics. I checked the timestamp: 11:23 p.m. last night. While Madison and I were sleeping, this poll had been gathering momentum for hours. I scrolled through the comments, each one feeling like a physical blow. "Oh, is this your niece, Savage Heather? Someone needs to introduce this girl to a hairdresser." Classic teen attitude problem. My daughter went through this phase too. "Is her mom blind? How do you let your kid walk around like that?" Some of Heather's followers had even tagged Madison's school friends who had Instagram accounts. The humiliation was spreading through her social circle like wildfire. I immediately tried calling Heather, straight to voicemail. I texted, "Take this down now, call me." No response. I called Greg, who answered sleepily. "Greg, it's Allison. Where's Heather?" "She's in the shower." "What's going on?" "She posted a horrible poll about Madison. She needs to take it down immediately." "What poll? I don't know what you're talking about." "Just tell her to call me the second she gets out of the shower. This is serious." I hung up and looked at the time. Madison's alarm would go off in 15 minutes. Should I wake her now and show her before she saw it at school, or should I try to have it removed first? My mind raced with impossible calculations. My phone rang. It was my mother. "Allison, why are you making such a fuss? Heather just called me crying because you're threatening her." "Mom, have you seen what she posted about Madison?" "Yes, and it's just a silly joke. You're overreacting as usual." "A joke? Mom, she publicly humiliated my daughter to thousands of people. Strangers are commenting on my child's appearance and personality." "Oh please, it's just social media. No one takes these things seriously." As I argued with my mother, another call beeped in. Rachel, my best friend since childhood and Madison's godmother. I switched over. "Allison, I just saw. This is absolutely not okay," Rachel said, her voice tight with anger. "I can't believe this is happening," I said, tears finally breaking through. "How could she do this to Madison? This is bullying, plain and simple, and it's from her aunt. Have you talked to Madison yet?" "She's still asleep. I don't know what to do, Rachel. Should I wake her? Should I keep her home from school today?" If it were my daughter, I'd want to control the narrative, tell her before she hears it from someone else, and document everything: screenshots, timestamps, comments. This crosses so many lines. As we spoke, texts began pouring in from other parents, family members, and even a teacher from Madison's school who followed Heather. The post was spreading faster than I could process. I heard Madison's alarm go off in her bedroom, followed by the familiar sounds of her morning routine. The bathroom door closed and the shower started running. I had minutes to decide how to handle this. I took screenshots of everything, reported the post to Instagram for harassment, and then braced myself for one of the hardest conversations I'd ever have with my daughter. Madison emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, her wet hair dripping onto her shoulders. "Morning, Mom," she said, heading toward her bedroom. She paused when she saw my face. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" I patted the couch beside me. "Come sit down for a minute, sweetie. There's something we need to talk about before school today." "Mom, you're scaring me," Madison said as she sat beside me, clutching her towel tighter. "Is it Grandma? Is she okay?" I took a deep breath and held her hand. "Everyone's healthy, but something has happened that you need to know about before you go to school today." I showed her my phone with Heather's poll displayed. "Your Aunt Heather posted this last night." Madison's expression changed as she processed what she was seeing. Her eyes widened, then narrowed. then filled with tears, she grabbed the phone and scrolled through the comments, her hands shaking. "Everyone's going to see this," she whispered. "Kaylee and Zoe have already commented, and Jason, oh my god, Jason's seen me like this." Jason was a boy in her biology class she'd had a crush on for months. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I've already reported it and tried to contact Aunt Heather to take it down." Madison looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. Why would she do this? What did I do to her? Nothing, you did absolutely nothing wrong. This isn't even the first time, Madison said quietly. What do you mean? I asked, my stomach dropping. She texts me sometimes with advice. Look, Madison went to her room and returned with her phone. Opening her message thread with Heather, I scrolled through months of messages I'd never seen. "The outfit in your mom's post today isn't doing you any favors, sweetie. Horizontal stripes aren't for everyone. Saw your science project got second place. Keep trying. The twins both got first in their division. Your mom posted a video of your dance performance. Have you thought about trying a different hobby? Not everyone has natural rhythm." Each message was delivered with a thin veneer of helpful advice that barely concealed the criticism underneath, and Madison had been receiving these regularly without telling me. "Why didn't you tell me about these?" I asked gently. "She's your sister, and she always says she's just trying to help." Madison looked down. "Also, sometimes I think maybe she's right. Maybe I am too sensitive and my hair is ugly and I should be more like Noah and Logan." That was the moment something broke inside me. The thought of my beautiful, kind, creative daughter believing she wasn't enough, that she needed to be more like her perfectly polished cousins, ignited a fury I'd never experienced. "Get dressed," I said, my voice calm despite the storm inside me. "You're staying home today. I need to talk to your aunt." "Mom, don't make it worse," Madison pleaded. "I won't make it worse. I'm going to fix this." I called the school to report Madison's absence while she got dressed. Then I called Rachel. "I'm going to Heather's house. Can you come over and stay with Madison?" "On my way," Rachel said without hesitation. "But Allison, maybe you should wait until you're calmer." "If I wait, I might lose my nerve. This ends today." The 20-minute drive to Heather's suburban home felt like hours. I rehearsed what I would say, trying to find words strong enough to convey the magnitude of the harm she'd caused, but measured enough to avoid making the situation worse for Madison. Heather answered the door in yoga pants and a pristine white top, her hair pulled back in a perfect ponytail. Her expression shifted from surprise to defensive irritation when she saw me. "I'm getting the boys ready for school," she said instead of a greeting. "Take down the post about Madison now." My voice was steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "It was just a joke, Allison. You're overreacting." Heather stepped back to let me into her immaculate's foyer. "Besides, it's generating great engagement. My follower count is up by 300 since last night." "A joke?" Madison is in tears. "Her classmates are sharing it. Do you have any idea what you've done?" Greg appeared from the kitchen, the twins trailing behind him. "Boys, go finish your breakfast," he said, sensing the tension. They scampered off, but not before I caught a glimpse of concern on Logan's face. "Heather, maybe you should take the post down," Greg suggested cautiously. "Not you too," Heather snapped. "It's just social media. It's not that serious." "It is serious," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You publicly humiliated my daughter, your niece, a 14-year-old girl who already struggles with confidence. Why would you do that?" "Oh please, Madison needs to toughen up. The world isn't going to coddle her, and frankly, Allison, her attitude has been terrible lately. You should be thanking me for bringing it to your attention." "Thanking you? For what? For bullying my child? For sending her hurtful text messages for months behind my back?" Heather's eyes widened slightly. "She showed you those?" "I was just giving her guidance, since clearly she's not getting it at home." "What is that supposed to mean?" "Look at her, Allison. Her hair is always a mess. She barely smiles anymore, and she has zero respect for adults. That's on you and your permissive parenting." The real issue began to emerge from beneath the surface. This wasn't just about Madison or a tasteless social media post. This was about Heather's judgment of my parenting, my life choices, my very identity as a mother. "You have no idea what you're talking about," I said, my voice dangerously quiet now. "Madison is kind, creative, and resilient. She's navigating adolescence while dealing with divorced parents and apparently an aunt who secretly criticizes her appearance and achievements. And still, she shows up with compassion and authenticity every day." "Authenticity?" Heather scoffed. "Is that what we're calling it when teenagers have no boundaries or respect? Your permissive parenting is why she's turning out this way. And your obsession with perfection and appearances is why you'd humiliate a child for social media engagement." The front door opened and our mother walked in without knocking. Of course Heather had called her for reinforcement. Enough shouting, Mom said, setting her purse down on Heather's pristine console table. The neighbors will hear. Mom, did you see what Heather posted about Madison? I asked. Yes, and I think everyone needs to calm down. It was just a silly poll. It was cyberbullying by her aunt. Oh, stop being so dramatic, Allison. Heather was just having a little fun. At Madison's expense. Why are you defending this? Heather crossed her arms. Because she knows I'm right. Madison's attitude is out of control, and it's because you let her do whatever she wants. No structure, no discipline. You don't know anything about how I parent. I know that my boys would never speak to adults the way Madison does, and know that they understand the importance of presenting themselves properly. My phone buzzed with a text from Madison. Everyone at school is talking about it, so he just sent me screenshots from 5 different people sharing it. Please make it stop. I thrust my phone toward Heather. Read what your little joke is doing to Madison right now. Heather glanced at the phone and had the decency to look momentarily uncomfortable before her expression hardened again. She needs to learn that appearances matter. The sooner she understands that, the better off she'll be. Take down the post, I said again, or I swear, Heather, this is the last time Madison or I will ever set foot in your house. Are you threatening me? Heather asked incredulously. I'm setting a boundary, something this family should have done a long time ago. Girls, stop this nonsense, our mother interjected. Allison, you're overreacting as usual. Heather, maybe take down the post if it's causing this much drama. We have Easter dinner next month and I won't have it ruined by this silly feud. That was it. That was all my mother cared about, maintaining the appearance of a happy family, regardless of the actual harm being done. I'm leaving, I said, turning toward the door. Heather, take down the post. Not for me, not for Mom's Easter dinner, but because it's the right thing to do, because Madison deserves better from her aunt. And if I don't, Heather challenged. I turned back to face her. Then you'll have chosen social media engagement over your relationship with your niece, and that will be on you. As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with another text from Madison. Mom, please come home. I need you. In that moment, I knew where I needed to be. The confrontation with Heather wasn't over, but Madison needed me more than I needed to win this fight. When I arrived home, I found Madison curled up on the couch with Rachel, scrolling through her phone with red-rimmed eyes. It's everywhere, Mom, she said as I sat beside her. Someone made a meme out of it. Look, she showed me her phone, where her image had been further altered with cruel captions. Rachel gave me a hug. How did it go with Heather? About as well as expected. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. Of course she doesn't, Rachel sighed. I need to get to work, but call me if you need anything, okay? Anything at all. She hugged Madison tightly before leaving. Once we were alone, Madison broke down completely. I can't go back to school ever, I just can't. I held her as she sobbed, her body shaking with the force of her pain. We'll figure this out, I promised, though I had no idea how to fix a humiliation that had already spread so far. My phone rang constantly. Family members, school parents, even Madison's guidance counselor, who had seen the post through her own teenage daughter. Mrs. Parker is aware of the situation, Madison told me between sobs, referring to her school counselor. She pulled me aside this morning before I texted you to come home. She said other kids were talking about it in first period. I felt a flash of gratitude for the counselor's awareness, followed by renewed anger that this situation existed at all. Did she say anything else? Madison nodded. She said I could talk to her anytime, and that she'd support whatever decision we made about me staying at school today. She looked up at me with swollen eyes. She also said it was cyberbullying, even though it's from Aunt Heather. She's right, that's exactly what it is. Madison was quiet for a moment, then said, This isn't the first time you mentioned the text messages. Not just those. Last year at Thanksgiving, she took pictures of me eating and sent them to Noah and Logan with jokes about how much I was eating. Logan showed me later because he thought it was mean and wanted to make sure I was okay. I closed my eyes, feeling sick. Why didn't you tell me? Because, Madison hesitated, because sometimes I think maybe she's right. Maybe I do eat too much, or my hair is too messy, or I'm not as good as Noah and Logan. They get perfect grades and win sports trophies and never seem to do anything wrong. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. How had I missed this? How had I not seen that my daughter was being systematically undermined by her aunt while developing such negative self-perceptions? Madison, look at me, I said, waiting until her eyes met mine. Your Aunt Heather's behavior says everything about her and nothing about you. You're perfect exactly as you are, messy hair, hearty appetite and all. Noah and Logan aren't better than you, they're just different. Living in a different home with different pressures. Madison didn't look convinced, but Grandma always says. Grandma is wrong too, I interrupted, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. For too long I've let her comparison slide because that's just how she is, but it's harmful, and I should have put a stop to it years ago. My phone buzzed with a text from Greg, Heather's husband. Heather won't take down the post, says you're trying to control her social media. I'm sorry, Allison, I think it's wrong too, but you know how she gets when she feels cornered. I showed Madison the text. What do you want to do, sweetheart? This is your life, your image being shared. You have a say in how we handle this. Madison thought for a moment. Can we report it to Instagram? Already did this morning, but we can file more detailed reports. It might take time for them to review it though. Then Madison took a deep breath. I want to make a statement on my own Instagram. I want to stand up for myself. I felt a surge of pride through my worry. Are you sure? You don't have to put yourself out there if you're not ready. I'm not ready, she admitted, but I also don't want to hide and let people think I'm ashamed or that what Aunt Heather did was okay. We spend the afternoon crafting a thoughtful post about cyberbullying, family boundaries, and natural beauty. Madison decided to include a recent photo of herself with her natural hair, smiling confidently. As we worked, more calls and texts came in. My mother called 3 times, leaving increasingly annoyed voicemails about how I was blowing things out of proportion and causing a family rift over nothing. Several relatives took sides, most supporting Heather because of her more prominent social media presence, a few reaching out with genuine concern for Madison. That evening, Madison couldn't sleep. I found her sitting at the kitchen table at 2 a.m., scrolling through responses to her post. I keep checking if Aunt Heather's post is still up, she admitted. It is. I sat beside her. You should be sleeping. I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I imagine everyone at school laughing at me. She looked up with tired eyes. Mom, why does Aunt Heather hate me? Oh, sweetie, she doesn't hate you. This isn't about you at all, really. Then what is it about? How could I explain the complex web of insecurity, jealousy, and unhealthy family dynamics to a 14-year-old? How could I help her understand something I was only beginning to fully comprehend myself? I think Aunt Heather is deeply insecure, I began carefully. She's built her identity around having the perfect family, the perfect home, the perfect social media presence. Anything that doesn't fit that image threatens her sense of self. But I'm her niece, her family. Yes, but you're also a reminder that there are different ways to live, different ways to be. You're authentic in a way Heather struggles to be, and instead of admiring that, it makes her uncomfortable. Madison considered this. That's really sad, actually. It is sad, but it doesn't excuse her behavior, and it doesn't mean you have to accept being treated that way. The next morning I received a text from an unexpected source. Logan, Heather's son, sent from what must have been a secret account. Hi, Aunt Allison. I want Madison to know I think what Mom did was really mean. Noah and I think her hair looks cool natural. Is she okay? I showed Madison, who managed her first genuine smile in 2 days. Can I text him back? Of course. As Madison corresponded with her cousin, I checked my email to find a message from Madison's principal requesting a meeting to discuss the online situation affecting Madison's well-being and educational environment. The school was taking this seriously, which brought me immense relief. By noon, Heather's post had been viewed over 15,000 times. Instagram hadn't removed it despite multiple reports. The damage was spreading, but something else was happening too. Madison's response was gaining traction. Friends, classmates, and even strangers were commenting with support, sharing their own experiences with family bullying and beauty standards. Madison was still hurting. This wound wouldn't heal overnight, but watching her engage with her supporters, I saw glimmers of a strength she hadn't known she possessed. I think I want to go back to school tomorrow, she said that afternoon. Hiding makes it feel like I've done something wrong. Are you sure? We can take more time if you need it. I'm sure, but she hesitated. Can I get a haircut first? Not to straighten it or change it because Aunt Heather thinks it's ugly, but to have someone help me figure out how to work with my natural texture, to help me feel good about it. Absolutely, I said, already pulling up the number for a curly hair specialist Rachel had recommended months ago. Let's do it. That night, as Madison finally slept peacefully after 2 days of turmoil, I sat alone with my thoughts. The family dynamics that had seemed merely annoying or frustrating before now appeared toxic and dangerous. This wasn't just about one Instagram poll, it was about years of subtle and not so subtle undermining, comparison, and criticism. It was about a family culture that prioritized appearances over well-being, that confused criticism with love. And it was time for things to change. The next morning, Madison and I sat in the principal's office with Mrs. Parker, the school counselor. Principal Winters, a thoughtful woman in her 50s, had printed screenshots of Heather's post. "First, I want to say how sorry I am that you're experiencing this, Madison," she said. "We take cyberbullying very seriously at this school, even perhaps especially when it comes from family members who should know better." Madison nodded, her newly cut hair falling in defined waves around her face. The haircut had been transformative not just in appearance but in how she carried herself. The stylist had spent an hour teaching Madison how to care for her natural texture, affirming its beauty throughout the appointment. "We've addressed the students who shared or commented on the post," Mrs. Parker added. "They've removed their shares, and we've had discussions about digital citizenship and empathy." "Thank you," I said, genuinely moved by their support. "What happens now?" "That depends partly on what you and Madison want," Principal Winters replied. "We can arrange modified schedules, provide a safe space if things get overwhelming, and continue counseling support. We've also accelerated our planned digital citizenship assembly to address social media harassment." Madison spoke up. "I'd like to be part of that, the assembly, I mean. I want to talk about what happened to me." I looked at my daughter in surprise. "Are you sure?" "Yes, if it happened to me, it's probably happened to other kids too. Maybe not from their aunt, but still." Pride swelled in my chest. Despite everything, Madison was thinking of how to help others. After the meeting, we met with Diana, a lawyer friend who specialized in family law and digital issues. I'd sent her the screenshots and explained the situation over the phone the previous day. "Instagram likely won't remove the post unless it explicitly violates their terms of service," Diana explained in her office. "Family humiliation isn't specifically covered, unfortunately, but we have other options." "Like what?" I asked. "A cease and desist letter, for starters. It wouldn't have legal teeth necessarily, but it signals you're serious. We could potentially pursue a harassment case if this continues or escalates." Madison listened intently. "Would that make Aunt Heather take it down?" "It might. People like your aunt often back down when faced with formal consequences," Diana said gently. "But I want to be honest, legal action within families is complicated and can create permanent rifts." "I think that rift already exists," I said quietly. "She's had 2 days to take down a post humiliating her niece and has chosen not to." Diana nodded. "Let me draft the letter. In the meantime, keep documenting everything: screenshots, dates, times, any contact or fallout. And Madison, your Instagram response was incredibly mature. That public record of how this affected you could be important." As we left Diana's office, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Allison, this is Greg. I'm calling from my work phone. I need to talk to you." "About what, Greg?" "Heather's post is still up." "I know, that's why I'm calling. Can we meet somewhere, without Heather knowing?" 30 minutes later, Madison and I sat across from Greg at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes and his usually immaculate shirt slightly wrinkled. "I've tried to get Heather to take down the post," he said after ordering. "She refuses. Says taking it down now would be admitting defeat and that you're manipulating everyone by making it a bigger deal than it is." "It is a big deal," Madison said firmly. Greg looked at her with genuine regret. "I know, Madison. I agree with you. That's why I reported the post myself this morning." "You did?" I asked, surprised. He nodded. "And I wanted you to know that Logan and Noah are upset about this too. They've always looked up to Madison. They think what their mother did was wrong." "Thank you for telling us that," I said. "But Greg, this isn't just about one post. Heather has been sending Madison critical text messages for months. This pattern of behavior needs to stop." Greg looked genuinely shocked. "What text messages?" I showed him the thread on Madison's phone. His face grew increasingly troubled as he scrolled. "I had no idea," he said finally. "This explains why Logan has been asking to see Madison more often. He told me last night that he's worried about her." He looked up. "Heather doesn't know I'm here. She's not been herself lately. The social media influencer thing has taken over. Everything is about engagement and followers and brand partnerships. It's like the real people in her life don't matter as much as the online audience." "That doesn't excuse publicly humiliating my daughter," I said firmly. "No, it doesn't," Greg agreed. "I should have done more to stop it. I'm sorry, Madison, truly." On our way home, I received a call from my mother. I almost ignored it but decided it was time to address her role in this dynamic as well. "Mom, unless you're calling to tell me you've spoken to Heather about taking down that post, I don't want to hear it." "Actually," my mother said, her voice unusually subdued, "Madison's guidance counselor called me." "That was unexpected. Mrs. Parker called you? Why?" "She thought I should understand the seriousness of the situation from an educational professional's perspective. She explained how this constitutes cyberbullying and the potential psychological impact on Madison. She paused. She also mentioned that the school has a zero-tolerance policy for this behavior, even from family members. And I prompted, waiting for the defense of Heather that was sure to follow. And I've been thinking about what she said, about patterns of behavior in our family, about how I might have contributed to certain dynamics between you and your sister. I nearly dropped the phone. In 37 years, I'd never heard my mother acknowledge her role in the complicated relationship between Heather and me. Madison would like to talk to you, I said, making a split-second decision about how your comparisons have affected her over the years. Are you willing to listen, really listen, without getting defensive or dismissing her feelings? There was a long pause before my mother answered, yes, I think I need to hear it. Later that evening, we gathered in our small living room, Madison, my mother, and me. Madison spoke with remarkable clarity about how it felt to be constantly compared to her cousins, to have her appearance and personality critiqued, to never quite measure up to an impossible standard. My mother listened without interrupting, tissues clutched in her hand. When Madison finished, my mother did something I'd never seen before. She apologized, sincerely and without qualification. I never meant to make you feel less than, she told Madison. I fell into the same patterns my own mother used with me and my sister. It wasn't right then, and it's not right now. I'm truly sorry, Madison. She turned to me, and I'm sorry to you too, Allison. I've been harder on you than on Heather. I think because you remind me so much of myself at your age, and I wanted to push you to have an easier life than I did. It wasn't a perfect conversation. Decades of patterns don't change in one evening, but it was a start. My mother left with a promise to talk to Heather, not to smooth things over for the sake of appearances, but to address the real harm that had been done. That night after Madison went to bed, I received a notification that Heather's post had been removed. No explanation, no apology, just gone. It was something, at least. The next day, Madison returned to school with her head held high, her natural waves bouncing with each confident step. It wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face whatever came next, and so was I. A week after Heather's post, Madison sat in the salon chair smiling at her reflection as Tanya, the curly hair specialist, showed her how to apply product to enhance her natural waves. See how beautiful the definition is when you scrunch it this way, Tanya demonstrated, her own magnificent curls bouncing as she moved. Your hair texture is gorgeous, Madison. So many people pay good money to get waves like yours. Madison's eyes met mine in the mirror, a newfound confidence in her gaze that made my heart swell. The past week had been challenging but transformative. After her return to school, Madison had faced whispers and stares, but also unexpected support. Her English teacher, Ms. Ramirez, had changed the upcoming assignment to focus on digital citizenship and media literacy. Several classmates had shared their own stories of family criticism and social media pressure. Mom, can we get these products? Madison asked, holding up the curl-enhancing cream and gel Tanya had used. They make such a difference. Absolutely, I replied without hesitation. 6 months ago I might have balked at the price, suggesting drugstore alternatives instead, but watching Madison embrace her natural beauty after such a painful experience had shifted my priorities. On the drive home, Madison scrolled through her phone, a small smile playing on her lips. Logan sent another message, she said. Uncle Greg is taking him and Noah camping this weekend. Just the guys. He says it's the first time they've done that. The changes rippling through our extended family were surprising but welcome. Greg had been calling every few days, checking on Madison and sharing his own struggles with Heather's social media obsession. The twins, previously portrayed as perfect mini-adults, were being allowed to be boys, messy, playful, individual boys with their own preferences and personalities. Heather remained the one holdout. Since taking down the post reportedly after both Instagram warnings and my mother's unexpected intervention, she had maintained radio silence with me and Madison. No apology, no acknowledgement of the harm done. According to Greg, she was processing and reevaluating her brand. Have you thought more about the support group Mrs. Parker mentioned? I asked Madison as we pulled into our apartment complex. Madison nodded. I want to go, especially after reading all those comments from other kids who've dealt with family criticism and social media bullying. I'm not the only one, Mom. The Teen Resilience Group met weekly at the community center, facilitated by a child psychologist who specialized in digital age challenges. Madison had been hesitant at first, worried it would label her as a victim, but after browsing their website and seeing the emphasis on empowerment and boundary setting, she'd become increasingly interested. That evening, as Madison practiced her new hair care routine, my mother called. How is she? Mom asked, her voice gentler than I could remember it being in years. She's doing better, taking it day by day. The support from school and friends has helped enormously. And you, how are you, Allison? The question caught me off guard. My mother rarely asked about my well-being with such genuine concern. I considered giving my usual fine, but decided on honesty instead. I'm angry, Mom, and hurt, and reevaluating a lot of our family dynamics that I've accepted for far too long. To my surprise, she didn't get defensive. I've been doing some reevaluating too. After our talk last week, I found a therapist, had my first session yesterday. You're seeing a therapist? In our family, therapy had always been viewed with suspicion, a sign of weakness or failure. It's time. The way Mrs. Parker explained how these family patterns affect children affect Madison, it made me realize I don't want to continue this cycle. I should have done this years ago after your father left. We talked for nearly an hour, more openly than we had in decades. Mom shared insights about her own upbringing, the critical grandmother I'd barely known, the way she'd internalized those standards and passed them on without realizing the damage they caused. When Madison emerged from the bathroom, her hair styled in perfect waves, my mother asked to speak with her. I put the phone on speaker. Madison, I want you to know I've spoken to your Aunt Heather again, Mom said. I made it clear that her behavior was unacceptable and that there would be consequences within the family if she doesn't acknowledge the harm she's caused. Madison's eyebrows rose in surprise. Grandma taking her side over Heather's was unprecedented. Thank you, Grandma, she said carefully. I also want to say again how sorry I am for my role in all this, the comparisons, the comments about your appearance. I was wrong. You're perfect exactly as you are. After the call, Madison looked thoughtful. Do you think Aunt Heather will ever apologize? I don't know, sweetie. Some people find it very difficult to admit when they've caused harm. If she doesn't, are we never going to see her again? Or the twins? It was the question I'd been wrestling with myself. We'll find a way to maintain relationships with Logan and Noah. As for Heather, we'll need to establish clear boundaries about how she can interact with you, if at all. But that's a decision we can make together. When you're ready. The following Monday, Madison had her first session with Dr. Levine, a therapist specializing in adolescent self-image and family dynamics. I sat in the waiting room, alternating between answering work emails and staring blankly at the calming blue walls. When Madison emerged, her expression was lighter than it had been in weeks. She gets it, Mom, she said as we walked to the car. She really gets it, and she doesn't think I'm overreacting or too sensitive. Of course you're not, I assured her. She also wants to have a joint session with us sometime, to talk about family patterns and boundaries and stuff. Is that okay? Absolutely, whatever helps. As we drove home, Madison's phone pinged with a message. She checked it, then went very still. What is it? I asked, glancing over with concern. It's Aunt Heather. She wants to meet, to talk. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. What exactly did she say? Madison read the message aloud. Madison, I'd like to speak with you in person about what happened, your choice of location and time. You can bring your mom if you want. I understand if you're not ready to talk yet. How do you feel about that? I asked carefully. Madison stared at her phone. I don't know. Part of me wants to hear what she has to say, but another part is scared she'll just make me feel bad again. You don't have to decide right now, and you certainly don't have to meet with her if you don't want to. Madison began slowly, I think I want to hear her out, but definitely with you there, and maybe in Dr. Levine's office. She mentioned family mediation. I nodded, pride mingling with apprehension. If that's what you want, we'll make it happen, on your terms. 2 days later, we received an unexpected visitor. Thomas, Madison's father, rang our doorbell at 7 p.m., his usual neat appearance rumpled from travel. Dad, Madison exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. I thought you were in Singapore until next month. Thomas hugged her tightly, then looked at me over her head. Greg called me, filled me in on what happened. I took the first flight I could get. Despite our divorce, Thomas and I had maintained a respectful co-parenting relationship. Though his international consulting work meant his physical presence was limited, he had always made an effort to stay connected with Madison through video calls and extended visits when he was stateside. After Madison went to bed, Thomas and I sat at the kitchen table, voices low. I can't believe Heather did this, he said, shaking his head. I always thought she was uptight, but this is another level. It's been building for years, I admitted. I just didn't see how bad it was getting. I should have been here, Thomas said, guilt evident in his voice. Maybe if I was around more. This isn't on you, Thomas, or on Madison, or even on me. Heather made choices that hurt our daughter. The responsibility is hers. He nodded slowly. Still, I'm thinking it might be time for a change. My company has been offering a US-based position for months, less travel, more stability. Madison would love having you closer, I said sincerely. How about you? Would you be okay with me being more present? I smiled. We've always been better co-parents than spouses. Madison needs all the support she can get right now. The following weekend we held a small dinner at our apartment, just us, Thomas, Rachel and her husband, and to everyone's surprise, Logan and Noah, dropped off by Greg for their first visit since the incident. Mom's at a social media conference in Chicago, Logan explained as he helped Madison set the table. Dad thought it would be good for us to have some normal cousin time. Watching Madison laugh with her cousins, her natural waves bouncing as she showed them her latest art project, I felt a tentative hope. The road ahead wouldn't be smooth. Family healing rarely is, but transformation was possible. It was already happening, in ways both subtle and profound. As we gathered around our slightly crowded table, I realized this was the family dinner I'd always wanted: authentic, imperfect, and bound by genuine love rather than appearances. The empty chair where Heather would have sat was a reminder of the work still to be done, but no longer a source of tension that dominated the room. 1 month after Heather's Instagram poll, Madison stood in front of the school auditorium, her natural waves styled with confidence, addressing the entire student body about cyberbullying. I sat in the back row, trying to contain my pride as she spoke clearly and powerfully about her experience. When someone you trust uses social media to humiliate you, it feels like nowhere is safe, she said. Not school, not online, not even family gatherings. But I learned something important through this experience: other people's cruelty says more about them than it does about you. Principal Winters had invited Madison to speak as part of the school's expanded digital citizenship program. To my surprise, Madison had written her speech entirely on her own, declining my offers to help. "This is my story to tell," she had said with newfound confidence. As she concluded to enthusiastic applause, I noticed several students wiping away tears. Madison had touched something universal: the vulnerability we all feel when exposed to public judgment, and the strength that can emerge from that pain when supported by the right people. Later that day, as we celebrated with ice cream, my phone buzzed with a text from Heather. I saw Madison's speech. The school posted it on their page. She was incredible. "I'm sorry, Allison, for everything." It was the first direct communication from my sister since the incident. No excuses, no qualifications, just a simple apology. After a month of silence, it felt both monumental and wholly inadequate. "And Heather texted you, didn't she?" Madison asked, observing my expression. Greg mentioned she'd been watching a lot of videos about narcissistic tendencies and social media addiction. I showed her the text. "What do you think?" Madison considered it carefully. "It's a start, I guess. Better than nothing. You don't have to forgive her, you know. Not now, maybe not ever." "I know," Madison said. "Dr. Levine said forgiveness is for me, not for her, that I get to decide what that looks like." She took another spoonful of ice cream. "I think I want to respond to her message, not to make her feel better but to say what I need to say." That evening, Madison crafted a thoughtful response, which she asked me to send from my phone. "Thank you for the apology. What you did hurt me deeply and affected how I see myself and our family. I'm not ready for things to go back to normal, but I appreciate you acknowledging what happened." And Madison. It was mature, direct, and maintained the boundaries Madison had been working on in therapy. I sent it with a mixture of pride and trepidation. Heather replied almost immediately. "I understand. Thank you for responding at all. I'm doing work on myself and hope someday you'll let me show you how I've changed. Until then, I respect your boundaries." 2 weeks later, we faced an unavoidable family gathering: my grandfather's funeral. It would be the first time Madison and I would see Heather in person since the confrontation at her house. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" I asked Madison as we dressed in somber clothes. "Not really," she admitted, "but Great-Grandpa Jack was important to me, and I can't avoid Aunt Heather forever if she's going to be at family events." We arrived at the funeral home to find the family already gathered. My mother greeted us with gentle hugs, her recent therapy sessions having softened her usual brusque manner. Thomas stood by Madison's side protectively, having extended his stay indefinitely as he transitioned to his new US-based position. Heather stood across the room with Greg and the twins. When she saw us, she visibly tensed but made no move to approach. It was Logan who broke the ice, rushing over to hug Madison while Noah followed more hesitantly. The service was brief but moving. Afterward, during the reception, Heather finally approached, her usual polished appearance slightly subdued. "Madison," she said quietly, "thank you for responding to my message. I understand if you don't want to talk, but I wanted to say in person how sorry I am." Madison straightened her shoulders, now nearly as tall as her aunt. "I have something to say to you too," she said with remarkable composure. "What you did was cruel, not just the poll, but all the text messages, all the comments about my appearance, all the comparisons. It was bullying and it hurt me." Heather nodded, tears filling her eyes. "You're right, it was bullying, and there's no excuse for it." "I don't know if I can trust you again," Madison continued, "but I do know that I'm not going to let anyone make me feel bad about myself anymore, not even family." In that moment, Madison wasn't just a 14-year-old girl standing up to her aunt, she was breaking a generational pattern of criticism and comparison that had shaped our family for decades. The following week, Madison's Instagram post about her experience was featured by a national anti-bullying campaign. She received messages from teenagers across the country who had faced similar family dynamics. With my support and her therapist's guidance, she responded thoughtfully to each one, emerging as a powerful voice for young people navigating complex family relationships. Greg and the twins began visiting regularly without Heather, rebuilding their relationship with Madison on new, healthier terms. Greg confided that he and Heather were in marriage counseling, working through issues that had long been masked by their picture-perfect social media presence. My mother continued her therapy, making slow but steady progress in recognizing and changing her critical patterns. During one particularly meaningful visit, she asked Madison to help her set up an Instagram account, not to post perfectly curated images, but to follow Madison and better understand her world. As for Heather, her journey was just beginning. Her social media presence shifted dramatically: fewer perfectly staged family photos, more authentic reflections on growth and change. Whether this represented genuine transformation or another carefully constructed image remained to be seen, but her behavior toward Madison had undeniably improved. In my own life, I found myself setting clearer boundaries, not just with Heather but with everyone. I became more protective of Madison's privacy, more discerning about what family dynamics I was willing to accept, and more confident in my parenting decisions. 6 months after the Instagram poll incident, Madison sat at our kitchen table, putting the finishing touches on a school project about digital citizenship and family relationships. "Do you think things will ever be completely normal with Aunt Heather?" she asked without looking up from her work. "I don't think they'll ever be the old normal," I replied honestly, "but maybe we'll find a new normal that's actually healthier." Madison nodded. "I think I'm okay with that. Dr. Levine says sometimes the most painful experiences led to the most important growth." "She's right about that," I agreed, thinking of all the ways our family had transformed in the aftermath of Heather's cruelty. "But you know what I've learned through all this?" "What?" "That you are incredibly resilient, and that true beauty, the kind that matters, has nothing to do with straight hair or perfect photos, and everything to do with how you treat others and stand up for yourself." Madison smiled, her natural waves framing her face. "I think I've learned that too." That night, as I scrolled through recent family photos, I was struck by the difference. Where once I saw forced smiles and carefully controlled images, I now saw authentic moments: Madison laughing with her cousins, my mother actually relaxed for once, even glimpses of a Heather I barely recognized, less polished, more present. The healing wasn't complete, it might never be entirely complete, but the transformation was real and ongoing. From Heather's thoughtless Instagram poll had emerged a stronger Madison, a more authentic family, and the courage to break harmful patterns that had persisted for generations. In the end, what began as a cruel public humiliation became a powerful catalyst for change, proving that sometimes the most painful moments can lead to the most meaningful growth. And while I would never have chosen this path for Madison, I couldn't help but admire the strong, confident young woman who emerged from that difficult journey, a daughter who now truly understood that her worth came from within, not from likes, polls, or others' opinions. Have you ever dealt with family members who cross boundaries on social media, or have you had to stand up to family bullying? Share your experiences in the comments below. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in these struggles can be the first step toward healing. Don't forget to like and subscribe if this story resonated with you, and remember that your worth is never determined by someone else's opinion of you. Thank you for listening to our story, and I hope it helps anyone going through similar family challenges to find their own strength and voice.